KSI and Jake Paul are rumoured to have a super fight in Wembley next year. Now this would be a huge fight and it has people thinking hard about who would win. However, it's clear that if these two were to fight, it might not even be that competitive. In fact, it may not be close at all. We have many aspects to look at before we can justify this, but at the end of this video, you watching would also agree with me. This is exactly why Jake Paul is levels above KSI, and if they fought, KSI would get destroyed. First, we must look at their physical attributes. Jake Paul, 6'1", 76-inch reach, 6-0 with 4 KOs, giving him a 66% KO ratio, which is pretty impressive. When you're fighting the local postman, that's a different story, but we'll get onto that in a minute. KSI, 5'11", listed as 6 foot, but we all know that's not true. 76-inch reach, 4-0 and 1, 2 KOs, 1 TKO, and 2 decisions. 40% KO percentage, again, knowing his opponents, not too impressive. So the height advantage is with Jake Paul, but with a 1 to 2 inch difference, it won't be insane. The reach is the same, and that matters more than the height. No one's record looks way more impressive than the others. However, Jake Paul's KO percentage is higher because of that lethal right hand. Now we have to talk about the level of opponents of both to put these records in context. So next, level of competition. Jake Paul has fought Comedy Shorts Gamer, Annie Sungib, Nate Robinson, and this is where things get interesting. He fought Ben Askren, who didn't do great, but on paper should have beat Jake, and then Tyron Woodley twice. And most recently fought Anderson Silva, which he had a very good performance to. Now I'm going to just ignore Gib, Deji, and Ben Askren, and Nate Robinson in terms of real competition in boxing. What we can look at as impressive is Tyron Woodley. Although he was retired, he was still dangerous. Now their first fight was slow to say the least. Jake was still challenged in terms of pressure. Jake landed and won. Now we'll go more into the technicals of the boxing later and how it compares to KSI, but Jake, especially in the first round, was great at feigning and effectively got in. The second fight, well, we all know how that went. Again, we'll dissect the boxing ability, but for a YouTuber, Jake knocking out Woodley is impressive. KSI fought Joe Weller, which was the TKO win. Logan twice, won a draw, and the second one he won by split decision. He made his return fighting Swarms and Luis Pineda. Already, we can see who has a slightly better experience. The hardest challenge KSI has had is Logan Paul, and credit needs to be given where it's due. KSI was able to combat the reach and height of Logan Paul, constantly applying pressure in the second fight and hitting a wild overhand. In the first fight, he definitely ate a lot of shots, but that shows his jaw is pretty good. So we can already start to see why Jake Paul has this slight advantage. Although KSI technically has fought a pro boxer, can we really call him a pro boxer? Because if he's a pro, then Swarms should be champ by now. Okay, now for the most important part, which will clearly show you the divide in KSI and Jake, the style of boxing, an actual skill comparison. I want you to watch this right hand from KSI. KSI instantly drops the left when going in for a telegraph right. Okay, you could say he wasn't full guard because he's fighting Swarms, but even when he was fully locked in with Pineda initially, the overhand still led to his left dropping. Now what's an important tool for Jake Paul as well? The right hand. Now although the guard isn't there are two major differences. One, he weaves as Nate Robinson throws, and two, it's much quicker. KSI's overhand feels very long to the point you could take a nap and wake up by the time that right hand is back in his defense. Jake's is quick and snappy, and with KSI dropping this left hand, it would be a perfect time for Jake to hit this quick, snappy right and weave out of the way of KSI's right. Jake would see this punch coming due to the drop in the left and him charging up that right, and would be able to hit his snappy right in the unprotected area KSI has left on the left side of the face. During this, a quick weave would mean Jake goes right under KSI's right and Jake is already winning. I mean, that would be quite a good idea, and with Jake constantly getting faster as seen in his recent training for Anderson Silva, it would make the overhand right way more dangerous. So there we've covered speed and head movement. Let's look at guard. Jake has a low guard, and this has been a problem for him before with Woodley. We see when Jake drops the left hand, Woodley came over and hurt him with the right. However, his quick jab means his low guard is not normally exploited, as he's bringing back his guard when needed. KSI tries to maintain a high guard, but it gradually drops over time as the fight goes on. I'm guessing he's improved this as he's increased his cardio, but as he gets relaxed, even when not tired, he drops it, feeling safe. This is again where Jake can utilize his speed to get his combination in, especially with Jake's good feigning and with KSI reacting to everything. Jake could feign or double jab his way through KSI's defense as KSI drops the guard. We actually see this in action when Jake slept Tyron Woodley. A feint to the body meant Woodley dropped the left, protecting his head, and Jake hit that right hook. With KSI naturally having a low guard, Jake could hit a right hook, and matched with that speed, he could get it in before KSI can raise his guard again. Or Jake could feign, as is one of his strengths, meaning KSI further drops guard, possibly to block, leading to a devastating knockout. It could become very dangerous with KSI leaving his mouth open as he usually does, opening him up to the risk of possibly getting his jaw broken. Finally, KSI's arsenal of punches is, from what we've seen, very small. I'm not saying he's not got a good roster or variety, but we haven't seen much apart apart from overhands and a jab right hook combination. With Jake hitting a lot more combinations and being able to drop people's guard by doing so, we can go for an exposed area. So we've talked about a lot. KSI is a wild, aggressive fighter who likes to hit that overhand right. The problem will come when he telegraphs these punches, and Jake can weave under these, using his speed and power to land on KSI. The combos Jake can throw become more dangerous when KSI drops his guard, and combined with Jake's speed, the powerful right hands can be successfully landed as Jake feigns his way in, and with KSI reacting heavily to these feints. By feigning to a point where KSI's guard is dropped and Jake hits a right, by which he could follow up applying pressure and continue to exploit his skills, experience and knowledge. KSI won't be able to hit that overhand right, his most important weapon. As soon as Jake sees him preparing to hit this by dropping the left and charging up that right, he'll simply hit a quick right to the jaw, weave right under the danger, leaving KSI faced away and throwing a punch that had so much power behind it right into nothing. Jake will continue to use his tricks to a point where KSI loses. My prediction for the fight, I think it's obvious. Jake wins, not by KO, but on a split/unanimous decision. No hate to KSI, I'm actually a KSI fan and don't really like Jake Paul, believe it or not. But I think the hard truth is Jake Paul wins. Leave your predictions in the comments below and I'll see you in the next one.